There is a word that has been misunderstood for centuries. The word is magic. When most people hear it, they think of card tricks, illusions, perhaps something dark and forbidden, spells cast over boiling cauldrons, pacts made at midnight crossroads. But there is another meaning, an older meaning, and it has nothing to do with sorcery. True magic, the kind we're going to explore together, is simply this: the conscious mastery of the invisible forces that shape visible reality. It is the science of becoming fully awake. And here is the strange part: you are already doing magic every single day. You are already shaping your world with forces you cannot see: your will, your imagination, your thoughts, your desires. The only question is whether you're doing it consciously, or whether these forces are using you. A magician is someone who commands these inner powers. A medium, and by medium I don't mean a fortune teller, I mean an ordinary person living an ordinary life, is someone who is commanded by them. Most of us, if we are honest, spend our lives as mediums. We are pushed around by moods we didn't choose, swept up in currents of thought that aren't our own, driven by hungers we never consciously selected. We react. We are shaped. We are molded by the world. The magician does the shaping, and the journey from medium to magician, from sleeper to awakened soul, that is what this teaching is about. Part 1. The Little Universe. Let's begin with a strange and ancient idea. You are not just in the universe, you are a universe. The old teachers called the human being a microcosm, a little world, because they understood that everything found in the great cosmos is also found within you. This isn't poetry, it's a precise observation. Out there, in the vastness of space, there are suns burning with fire. Within you, there is a fire. The fire of life, of will, of consciousness itself. Out there are forces of attraction and repulsion, holding galaxies together. Within you, those same forces operate as love and hate, as desire and aversion. Out there is light and darkness, order and chaos, creation and dissolution. And all of these principles live inside the architecture of your own soul. So the great teaching begins here. If you want to understand the universe, you must understand yourself. If you want to master the outer world, you must first master the inner one. And here's why this matters. Because there is something within you, something you may have glimpsed in moments of stillness or sudden clarity, that is not separate from the power that moves the stars. Call it what you will. The ancients gave it many names: the divine spark, the inner Christ, the Atman, the true self. It is not a belief. It is not a doctrine. It is the actual flame of consciousness in burning at the center of your being. And the whole aim of spiritual practice, the entire purpose of what we might call white magic, is to awaken to that flame, to identify with it, to let it become the ruling principle of your life. Part 2. The Great Illusion. But here is the difficulty: we are asleep. We dream that we are our bodies. We dream that we are our thoughts. We dream that we are the sum of our memories and fears and preferences. And from within this dream, everything looks upside down. We think the physical world, the things we can touch and weigh and measure, is what's real. And we treat the invisible world, our thoughts, our feelings, our will, as somehow less real, as secondary, as mere inner experience. But the ancient teachers say you have it backwards. What you see with your eyes is the reflection. The invisible is the cause. Think of it this way. You see a tree. The tree has roots, trunk, branches, leaves. It appears solid and permanent. But what is a tree, really? It is the visible expression of an invisible pattern, a living intelligence, organizing matter according to a blueprint you cannot see. Change the seed, and you change the tree. The same is true of you. Your body, your circumstances, even your personality. These are the outer expressions of inner causes. They are the fruit of thoughts and desires and imaginings that you have cultivated, consciously or unconsciously, over years, decades, perhaps lifetimes. If you want to change the tree, you cannot simply rearrange the branches. You must work with the seed. This is why the magician learns to watch his thoughts. This is why the spiritual life begins with the study of the mind. Now, here's something even more subtle. The world you perceive is not a neutral, objective fact. It is colored by the state of your own soul. A person consumed by hatred sees enemies everywhere. Not because enemies are everywhere, but because their own inner fire has shaped their perception into a lens of hostility. They have created, quite literally, a world of threats. A person filled with love sees opportunities for connection, kindness, beauty. Not because such things are absent for the hater, but because their inner atmosphere allows them to perceive what was always there. We do not see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. So, in a sense, there are as many worlds as there are souls perceiving them, and each of us is living inside the world we have unconsciously created. This is what the old texts meant by illusion. Not that the physical world doesn't exist, of course it exists, but that we mistake our interpretation of reality for reality itself. We confuse the reflection with the source. The awakened soul learns to see past the reflection, to look, as it were, into the mirror rather than at it, to perceive the invisible causes moving behind the visible effects. And this brings us to a remarkable conclusion. If everything we see is the externalization of thought, if form follows consciousness, then the most powerful thing we can do is change our consciousness, not the outer world, the inner one. Part 3. The shape of souls. Let me say something that may sound strange at first. Every form is a thought made visible. Your body is the visible form of the thoughts and desires you have held across the span of your existence. It is the crystallization of your inner life. And not just your body, your face, your posture, the way you walk into a room. These are not accidents, they are readable. The ancients knew this. They called it physiognomy, the art of reading character in the body, but it goes deeper than reading. It implies that if you change the character, the form must eventually follow. Now, I want you to consider something. Right now, surrounding your physical body, there is an invisible counterpart. Call it the astral body, the etheric double, the aura. The name matters less than the principle. This subtle form is made of finer matter than flesh. It cannot be seen with ordinary eyes, though some sensitive people perceive it, and it serves as a kind of blueprint, a template that holds the physical form together. When you feel strongly, this subtle body radiates. When you are angry, there is a literal emanation, a wave of force that extends beyond your skin and affects everyone around you. When you feel love, you radiate that too. This is why we speak of atmospheres, why certain rooms feel heavy with tension and others feel light, why some people bring peace wherever they go and others leave a residue of agitation. You're broadcasting, constantly, and you are receiving. We swim in a sea of invisible influences, thought forms, emotional currents, the accumulated emanations of centuries of human feeling, and unless we learn to master our own inner atmospheres, we are swept along by these currents, absorbing and transmitting forces we never consciously chose. The magician learns to seal his aura, to control what comes in, to choose what goes out. This is not about becoming cold or closed off. It is about becoming sovereign, present, awake, directing your own inner forces, instead of being scattered by every passing wind. Part 4. The deception of visions. Here we must speak of something delicate, something that traps many sincere seekers. The imagination is the most powerful faculty you possess. It is not fantasy. It is not daydreaming. It is a plastic, creative force, a force that quite literally shapes the invisible matter of the astral world. When you imagine something vividly, especially if you imagine it repeatedly, with feeling, you are creating a form. That form exists. Not in the physical world, not yet, but in the subtle dimensions that underlie physical reality. If you feed that form enough energy, enough attention, desire, emotion, it grows stronger. It takes on a kind of life of its own. And eventually, it can begin to act back upon you. This is the explanation for many things that otherwise seem mysterious. When people encounter ghosts, demons, angels, and spirits, they are often meeting thought forms, either their own creations, or the accumulated imaginings of humanity preserved in what the ancients called the astral light. Some of these entities are genuinely malevolent, but not because an evil god created them. They are the crystallized imaginings of fearful, hateful, or selfish minds. They persist because human beings continue to feed them. And some are beautiful and luminous, forms of devotion, aspiration, worship, likewise sustained by centuries of reverent attention. The danger for the spiritual seeker is this: if you become passive, if you open yourself indiscriminately to visions and messages, you invite these forms into your sphere. You become a conduit for forces you do not understand and cannot control. This is mediumship in its destructive sense. The medium says, "I will surrender my will. Let the spirits speak through me." And something does speak, but it is rarely what the medium imagines. More often, it is the flotsam of the astral sea, or worse, the feeding frenzy of entities that live on human attention and vitality. The magician says something different. The magician says, "I will create consciously. I will imagine only what I choose. I will admit into my inner temple only what I deliberately invite." This requires a certain rigor, a certain purity, a refusal to indulge in mental wandering, in fantasy, in the chaotic stream of uninvited thoughts. And this brings us to one of the most important practical teachings, Part 5, The Alchemy of Mind. Thoughts are not private. This is one of the most radical ideas in all of spiritual teaching, and it runs directly against our modern assumptions. We believe that our thoughts happen inside our heads, invisible to everyone, affecting no one but ourselves. This is not true. Thoughts are substantial. They have form and force, and they linger, not inside your skull, but in the invisible atmosphere we all share. When you think a thought, especially a strong one, it impresses itself into the astral light. It persists. It can be picked up like a radio signal by any mind tuned to a similar frequency. This explains why certain ideas seem to arise simultaneously in different parts of the world, why crime and madness can spread like epidemics, why some places feel haunted, heavy with ancient grief. The thoughts of the past have not vanished. They are still there, available to anyone receptive enough to receive them. And here is the difficult corollary. Every thought you think joins that stream. You are contributing right now to the mental atmosphere of the planet. What are you broadcasting? When you dwell in resentment, you're not just hurting yourself, you are strengthening the current of resentment in the world. When you cultivate peace, you're not just benefiting yourself, you're adding to the reservoir of peace available to all. So the work of mastering the mind is not a private luxury, it is a responsibility. And how is it done? First, by watching. Sit quietly. Close your eyes. Try to observe, without interference, the stream of thoughts that arises. You will discover something humbling. You cannot stop them. Thoughts come unbidden, one after another, like leaves blown by a wind. Memories, worries, fantasies, fragments of conversation, an endless parade of uninvited visitors. Most people are carried by this stream every moment of their lives. They call it thinking, but it is not really thinking at all. It is being thought. It is being dreamed by the chaotic mind. The magician learns to interrupt this stream. At first, you will only be able to hold silence for seconds. The mind rebels. It has been master for so long that it does not accept discipline easily. But slowly, with practice, gaps appear, moments of true stillness, and in that stillness, something else becomes perceptible, a presence behind the thoughts, a watcher that is not itself a thought. That watcher is your true self, and from that place of stillness, you can begin to choose. You can admit a single thought, a clear, chosen idea, and hold it. You can cultivate it, you can let it grow, while refusing entry to the random traffic of mental noise. This is the beginning of real power. This is the first step of true magic. Part 6, The Paradox of Will. Now we come to perhaps the subtlest teaching of all. You have been told that willpower is the key, that through effort and determination, you can achieve anything. But there is a paradox here. The will accomplishes everything which it does not desire. Read that again, slowly. Let it sink in. What does it mean? It means that desire, in the sense of craving, wanting, anxious, needing, is actually the enemy of true will. When you desperately want something and what is actually happening inside you, there is a tension, a sense of lack, a fear that you might not get what you seek, and that fear, that anxiety, is a counterforce. It neutralizes your power. It introduces hesitation and doubt into the very machinery of manifestation. The magician does not crave. The magician commands. Imagine a master speaking to a servant. The master does not beg. The master does not plead. The master states what is to be done and expects compliance. There is no anxiety in the command, because the master has no doubt. This is the quality of true will. Calm certainty. When you act from this place, and when you hold an intention clearly, without grasping, without fear, something extraordinary happens. The universe responds, events align. What you intend comes to pass, not through struggle, but through a kind of frictionless cooperation between your will and the forces of life. But the moment you slip into wanting, into desperate hoping, you lose this power. You become like everyone else, pushing, striving, forcing, and exhausting yourself against the current. So the spiritual path requires a strange reversal. You must learn to want without wanting, to intend without grasping, to act without attachment to outcome. This is what the Eastern traditions call non-attachment, and the Western mystics call holy indifference. It does not mean you cease to care, it means you cease to crave. You do what is right because it is right, not because you are desperate for a result. And in that freedom from desperation, you discover a power you never knew you had. Part 7. Feeding and Starving. Let us return to those inner forces we spoke of earlier, the emotions, the desires, the habitual patterns of thought that seem to control us. Here is a teaching that can change your life if you truly understand it. Every emotion you feel is fed by attention. Anger does not simply happen to you and then vanish. It arises, and if you dwell on it, if you rehearse the insult, relive the offense. Imagine retaliation. You're feeding it. It grows stronger. It digs deeper grooves in your psyche. It becomes more easily triggered next time. The same is true of fear, of envy, of obsession, of every negative state. These are not mere moods. They are living forces, and they feed on your attention the way a fire feeds on fuel. So how do you overcome them? Not by fighting. This is the great mistake. When you fight a negative emotion, you are still giving it attention. You are engaged with it, you are energizing it, even if you're trying to destroy it. Every battle makes it stronger. The master strategy is different. You starve it and you simply withdraw your attention. This does not mean suppression. Suppression is pushing something down while still remaining entangled with it. Starvation is different. It is a calm refusal to participate, a turning away, a quiet non-engagement. The anger arises and you notice it. and you do not pick it up. You do not rehearse the story. You do not justify it, you simply let it be without feeding it, and you turn your attention elsewhere. At first, the emotion will scream for attention. It is used to being fed, it will intensify, demanding engagement. But if you persist, if you simply refuse to give it the fuel of your focus, something remarkable happens. It weakens, it shrinks. Eventually, it fades altogether. This is how the inner demons are slain, not by combat, but by neglect. And the corresponding truth, the inner angels are strengthened by cultivation. If you want to grow peace within you, attend to it. Notice moments of stillness and appreciate them. Feed them with focus, let them expand. Whatever you attend to, grows. This is the law, and the magician uses it consciously, every day, to build the soul. Part 8. The Builder. Now I want to say something that may seem provocative. You are building your future self right now. Not metaphorically, not as a nice piece of motivational thinking, actually. Every thought you entertain, every desire you cultivate, every act of will you exercise, these are laying down the materials for the soul that will carry you forward beyond this life. The ancients understood this. They knew that the personality we think of as me, the bundle of habits, preferences, memories, quirks, is not permanent. It was built, and it can be unbuilt. What survives, if anything survives, is the spirit. And whatever elements of the personality have become saturated with spiritual substance. Let me say this more plainly. If you live your entire life at the level of the animal, seeking pleasure, avoiding pain, grasping at security, defending the ego, then you have built nothing permanent. When the body dies, the personality, having no anchor in the eternal, dissolves like smoke. But if you live from a higher center, if you cultivate love, wisdom, and selfless will, then the personality becomes permeated with spiritual essence. It fuses with the eternal, and something of you survives the death of the body. Immortality, in this view, is not a gift automatically granted. It is an achievement. It is something you build, and you build it with every choice, every thought, every directed act of will. This is the urgency behind spiritual practice. It is not a hobby for the curious. It is not a weekend retreat for the stressed. It is the work of constructing an immortal vehicle, a soul capable of persisting beyond the dissolution of the flesh. The question is not, will I live forever? The question is, am I building something capable of surviving? Part 9. Heaven and Hell. Before we speak of the highest possibilities, let us address a common misunderstanding. Heaven and hell are not places. They are not geographic locations you travel to after death, one up, one down, separated by pearly gates and fiery pits. Heaven and hell are states of consciousness, and here is the unsettling truth. You are in one of them right now. If your inner life is dominated by fear, hatred, resentment, craving, if you live in chronic anxiety about losing what you have or not getting what you want, then you are already in a kind of hell. It doesn't matter that you walk under a blue sky and breathe fresh air. The hell is within, and it colors everything. Conversely, if your inner life is characterized by peace, gratitude, love, openness, then you're already tasting heaven. Not because your outer circumstances are perfect, but because your inner atmosphere is clear. Now, what happens at death? The physical body falls away. You can no longer distract yourself with its pleasures and pains. You can no longer run from yourself. What remains is the soul in its naked state. And the soul experiences after death precisely the reality it has created during life. If you have cultivated a heavenly consciousness, you inhabit a heavenly realm, not because God rewards you, but because that is who you have become. Like attracts like. You go where you fit. And if you have cultivated a hellish consciousness, a mind consumed by rage, cruelty, or selfishness, you find yourself in an environment that matches that vibration. Again, not as punishment, but as simple consequence. You have built your house. Now you live in it. This is why the spiritual traditions place such emphasis on purification, on cultivating virtue, and on transforming the inner life now, while we have a body, while we have time. Because what we become, we will continue to be, and there is no escaping ourselves. Part 10. The Awakening. We have spoken of illusion and reality, of the shaping power of thought, of the strange mechanics of inner transformation. Now let us speak of what it all leads to. There is a moment, and it may come suddenly or gradually, once or many times, when consciousness shifts. You have been identified, all your life, with the thinker, with the one who worries, plans, hopes, fears, with the little me who navigates the world, protecting itself and seeking advantage, guarding its story. And then, in a flash or a slow dawning, you realize, I'm not the thinker. I'm the awareness in which thinking appears. This is not an intellectual conclusion, it is a direct perception. The thoughts continue. They may even continue exactly as before, but you are no longer in them. You are the space in which they move. You are the witness, the silent presence, the awareness that never changes, no matter what thoughts or emotions arise. When this shift happens, something profound changes. You're no longer afraid of your own mind. You can watch anger rise without becoming angry. You can observe fear without being paralyzed. You can see desire without being compelled. This is the beginning of true freedom. And it goes further. Because if you are not the thinker, then what are you? If you are not the bundle of personality, then who is home? When you look deeply into that question, when you turn awareness back upon itself and ask, what is this that is aware? You find something remarkable. You find nothing. Not nothing as in absence, nothing as in infinite openness, a spacious, luminous emptiness that is not blankness but pure potential. The ground of being, the source of all. And this, the mystics say, is what you truly are. Not the thoughts, not the body, not the story. You are the awareness in which the whole show appears, and that awareness is not separate from the awareness that lights every other mind, that illumines every particle of the universe. There is only one light, and you are it. Part 11. The Fire That Saves. Now we come to the deepest mystery. There is a principle, call it the Christ principle, the Logos, the inner sun, that represents the highest possibility within you. It is not a historical figure, though historical figures have embodied it. It is not a doctrine, though doctrines point toward it. It is the living spiritual fire at the core of existence, and it dwells within your own heart. When this principle awakens, when it becomes the dominant force in your life, something extraordinary happens. The old self begins to burn. Not literally, of course, but the petty ego, the selfish desires, the endless cravings of the lower nature, all of these are consumed by a fire that is not destructive but transforming. It is like gold purified in a furnace. The dross is burned away. What remains is pure. This is what the Christians meant by salvation. Not a legal transaction where a debt is paid, not a belief that gets you a ticket to paradise, but a radical transformation of the soul, a death and resurrection happening within you, in which the mortal is transmuted into the immortal. The personality does not survive this process unchanged. How could it? The personality, as we know it, is built largely of selfishness, subtle or gross, and selfishness cannot enter the kingdom. But the essence of what is real in you, the love you have expressed, the wisdom you have gained, the beauty you have created, this is not lost. It is taken up, purified, and incorporated into something greater. You do not disappear. You become, at last, who you truly are. This is the promise of all authentic spiritual traditions, not escape from life, but the complete fulfillment of life, not annihilation, but glorification, not the destruction of the human, but its elevation into the divine. Part 12, The Practical Path. We have traveled through many ideas. Let us now gather them into something usable. What does it mean, practically, to walk this path? First, watch your mind. This is the foundation. Without self-observation, nothing else is possible. Set aside time, daily if you can, to simply sit and observe the flow of thoughts. Do not try to stop them, just watch. Notice how they arise, linger, fade. Notice how you get captured by some and not others. Learn the terrain of your own inner world. Second, control your imagination. You're imagining constantly, picturing futures, rehearsing conversations, and spinning scenarios. Become conscious of this. Ask yourself, what am I creating? What thought forms am I feeding? Deliberately choose the images you entertain. Refuse to indulge in fantasies that pollute your inner atmosphere. Third, starve what weakens you. Identify the emotions and mental habits that drain your vitality and cloud your clarity. Then stop feeding them. Do not engage, do not justify, do not argue with them. Simply turn away, again and again, until they weaken from neglect. Fourth, feed what strengthens you. Cultivate the states you want to inhabit. Attend to moments of peace and let them expand. Notice beauty and dwell in it. Express gratitude and mean it. These are not just nice things to do, they are the building materials of your future soul. Fifth, purify the body. The body is not the enemy, but it is the vessel. Its state affects the clarity of consciousness. Eat simply and moderately. Avoid substances that agitate or dull the mind. This is not moralism, it is practicality. A turbid vessel cannot hold clear water. Sixth, act without craving and do what is right because it is right. Release attachment to outcome. Work hard, then let go. This is the secret of effective action. Desperation creates resistance. Calm certainty invites cooperation from the universe. Seventh, remember what you are. In moments of stillness, turn attention inward and ask, what is aware? What is this presence that does not come and go? Resting in that question without demanding an answer is itself the practice. It loosens identification with the passing and opens perception to the eternal. Closing. We come to the end of this teaching, but for you, if something here has stirred, it is only the beginning. These ideas are not meant to be believed, they are meant to be tested. You have a laboratory, your own body and mind. You have the materials, your thoughts, your will, your imagination. You have the time, this very moment, and every moment you choose to use. The transformation we have spoken of is not reserved for saints or geniuses. It is available to anyone willing to undertake the work. Anyone who is tired of sleepwalking through life, of being pushed around by invisible forces, of building nothing that lasts. You are not a finished product, you are a work in progress, and the architect is you. What will you build? What will you feed? And what will you starve? What will you become? These questions are not abstract. They are being answered right now by every choice you make. May you choose well. May you wake up. May you discover in the quiet depths of your own heart the fire that has been waiting there all along, waiting for you to claim it, to stoke it, to let it burn away everything that is not truly you, until only the gold remains. This is the great work, and it is yours to do.